So good afternoon and good morning, as we have our moderator, Jeff Seal, who's based in Austin, Texas. So good morning for you. And for all participants from different time zones, especially who joining us from Americas. My name is Tony Eid. I'm the CEO of Trace Media and the founder of Telecom Group. I would like to thank and welcome each of our speakers for today's panel and all registered participants as well. I wish we'll have successful panel with a lot of insight to our audience from all our speakers for today. Also, I would like to invite you all to join our summit on December 10th and 11th in Dubai. This is our 18th edition, and I hope to welcome you all. So please, if you need any information, you can contact the team, and you are all welcome to attend. It's very, very useful, very important. I will not make it long now. I will leave you with Jeff Seed, the managing partners of Telecom Review Americas, and he's the chief award committee of Telecom Review Excellence Award. Jeff, it's all yours now.
Thank you, Tony, and thank you everyone on our panel for being here. I appreciate that, and thank you for everybody that's tuning in to the webinar. It's always good to have a lot of different people on the webinar. The idea on these webinars is to have a good discussion back and forth about the subject matter, about the industry in general. So it's a pleasure and honor to have everybody here. I want to start, if you don't mind, please, introducing all of our panelists. We have a great group of panelists. They come from different entities in the industry. They're all very much an expert in the wholesale business. And if we don't mind, maybe we could start with you and just give us a 1 or 2 sentence intro, and then we'll go across the room here and do the same with everybody else.
So good afternoon and Assalamu alaikum, everyone. This is Ubaid Rahman here. First of all, thank you to Tony and Jeff for inviting me here. Very excited. Looking forward to having an interactive session. So happy to take questions later on as well. And from the onset, sorry for my croaky voice this afternoon. I don't know what happened this morning. I've lost my vocal cords a little bit, but I'll try my level best. Just a quick introduction for myself. Again, as I said, name is Ubaid Rahman. I'm the head of international wholesale for Du, based out of Dubai. Been in the sector for about 30 years, been doing wholesale across 4 different continents. My portfolio within Du includes subsea cable infrastructure, connectivity into data centers like Data MENA, connectivity into UAE Internet Exchange, but also the wholesale traditional services like roaming, voice, and messaging as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. George?
Yes, my name is George Haber, and thank you, Telecom Review, again for inviting us for this panel. I'm the head of wholesale, wholesale vice president at Salam. Salam is a licensed MVNO and fixed data services and voice operator in Saudi Arabia. So I have the wholesale in Salam, voice and data, including submarine cable investments, infrastructure investments, and connectivity to the data centers inside Saudi Arabia and to the bordering countries. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Omar?
Omar Al Sayed, the General Manager of Business Development in the Wholesale Department at Mobily. Before joining Mobily, I've done a lot of R&D work with different technology vendors and working on 3 AI startups. I'm very happy to be here and looking forward to a great session with the team.
Thank you, Omar. Abdullah?
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Tony, for hosting us here today, and good afternoon, everyone. This is Abdullah Dahmishi from Center 3. Center 3 is a subsidiary of STC Group. We're focusing mainly on the wholesale business of data center and connectivity businesses as well. You'll find us mostly participating in all of the technologies that we see, 5G, AI, etc. So excuse me if you see me jumping across the spectrum of technology, participating in the kind of document. I want to be there. I love being here, and hopefully it will be a joyful, inshallah, session. Thank you.
Great. We look forward to it. Frederick?
Thank you, Jeff. Frederick Nystrom from ZOE, which is Zain Omantel International, which is a joint venture between Zain Group, Zain Saudi Arabia, and Omantel, to act as the wholesale interface on the international side, participating in a number of infrastructure projects, submarine cables, terrestrial networks, and a lot of services and also which is not really touching upon in this forum, but also the roaming and voice and mobility, etc. So I'm very happy to be here and to be with such an esteemed group of gentlemen as well. So thank you.
Sounds great. Thank you, Frederick. Without much further ado, I mean, we've got a lot of questions to ask in a short amount of time. So I'm going to go ahead and get started if you don't mind. The first question we had was, what are the current developments in the wholesale industry, and can you share some of your latest products and services? Well, Ben, maybe we'll start with you, and this is not in order of importance so much as just going across the screen here. So if you don't mind, please, I'll let you start.
Thank you, Jeff, for putting me on the spot, from the get-go, but, happy to take it. So, Jeff, I'm going to start at a very macro level. Again, given my role as one of the leaders for Global Leader Forum within Capacity Media, which is, are our friends there. I've done a lot of work, so I just want to give a kind of a little bit of a gist from that perspective as well. If you look at from a macro perspective, there's a lot of digitalization happening across all economies, and all nations are very laser focused on digitalization, which is the key ingredient for economic growth. One of the statistics I always quote is that each time there's a 10% increase in broadband penetration, that equates to a growth of 1% in that country's or that nation's GDP. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice a little bit, so bear with me. So, with this whole thing, digital transformation is a key requirement, especially for cloudification. Even if you look with Middle East, we're looking at, an immense focus on cloudification, be it from enterprise or consumer or SMEs perspective. There's a 16% CAGR growth. Needless to say, I'm sure all our colleagues here or the panelists plus the attendees would know this. What I want to allude to is that one thing is changing. Basically, if you look at the customers, the hyperscalers, the large enterprise, the content providers, gaming companies, the governments, they are all heterogeneous in terms of their nature of business. But in terms of their wholesale requirements or connectivity requirements, they are becoming very homogeneous, in terms of they need low latency, they need high bandwidth, they are looking at optimized cost, they are looking at scalability. And with all this, they want resilience, they want redundancy, and they want diversity in place as well. So there's a lot of dynamicism coming in terms of how we as wholesalers serve the industry going forward. So, in terms of current developments, what I see is that there's a seismic shift happening in terms of how we've been traditionally serving our customers, our partners, and how it's moving forward. Now, I'll basically stop here in terms of the overall development, focus a little bit on your second point, which is, what are our products and services, if I may. So,
Yes.
just to allude a little bit more on DO's offering. Obviously, we are based out of UAE, but we have a regional play with all our partners that I see here and others as well. We have a big ecosystem that we built up, but just to name a few, we operate Data MENA, which is the largest ecosystem of hosting partners in this part of the world. We have UAE-IX, which is the region's largest internet exchange as well, as part of our product and service portfolio. We have 11 DC facilities, and we are actually expanding it by 5 more in the coming months and year. Obviously, needless to say, we have access of our own organic subsea cables, and we are building more, not only from an auxiliary perspective or arteries, going across continents, but more so focusing on capillarity, meaning that we want to basically bring in more products and services within the region rather than, beyond that. And again, I don't want to basically bore the audience, but we offer, the traditional Ethernet access service, IP transit, direct internet access. These are our product and services which are part of an ecosystem that we offer to the region and beyond for connectivity.
Good. Well, thank you, Abed. George, what's new in your arena?
In our arena, what is new is we are seeing the hyperscalers and OTTs coming into Saudi Arabia. and setting up presence and requiring large data center infrastructure, whether they do it on their own or they buy it from a big data center provider here in the kingdom. And after that, they will require dark fiber connectivity and IPLC connectivity to the external world. We are also seeing, also artificial intelligence coming up, GPUs and terabit connectivity now being in demand, not only gigabit connectivity, but terabit connectivity being in demand, whether for connectivity or for IP transit. We're seeing a new requirement for terrestrial Saudi connectivity to bypass the Red Sea and, go from the neighboring countries of the Gulf all the way to Jordan or to Iraq.
Mm-hmm.
Regarding the latest products and services, as Salam, we launched our wholesale voice offering earlier this year. So we're now doing a lot of wholesale hubbing, transit, and termination of voice traffic into Saudi Arabia. We launched our A2P SMS business because we became an MVNO and we have our own SMSC gateway. So we launched our A2P SMS. And we're also launching new border links such as Kuwait and Oman. Of course, in parallel to that, we're focusing on our traditional business, which is providing data service termination into the kingdom, direct internet access, managed services, SIP trunk, wholesale PBX, voice services for the corporate customers of our multinational partners. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Omar, how's everything on your end?
Well, first of all, thank you, Ubaid and George. Pretty much the wholesale, there is a traditional way of looking at wholesale business where, yes, connectivity, augmenting connectivity, whether it's in the metro or national or international with data center, internet exchanges, this is extremely common. But what we are seeing coming to the region, because of the support we have to do for hyperscalers and content owner, it's the power of software. Differentiation will come going forward in a software layer that allow us as an industry to orchestrate among each other, to orchestrate our own assets, to orchestrate with neighboring countries. We want to make it easier for international customers to come do business in Saudi Arabia and in the region. So the software and AI, as George mentioned, it will mean a lot in the very near future. Most of the new services will be driven by software capabilities. Now, Mobily, as one of the leaders in the sector, we did actually invest in a lot of the points which my colleagues mentioned. The geography is forcing us to innovate in routes, to innovate in technology that will light these routes. So no longer, in my mind, the cycle where a single entity or a single technology provider controls the solution. Now it's gonna open up. We have to work as an ecosystem because the innovation cycle is much faster now, and we need to launch services extremely fast. And software will be enabling all of this.
Sure. Good points. Very good points. Abdullah, what's new on your side?
Yeah, I believe I've heard from Ubaid, Umar, and Georges talking about the wholesale business. Although it is quite boring, I heard traditional as well. MashaAllah, they made it seem very interesting. So, but side the joke, the good thing that the digital industry itself, they cannot get rid of us, even if we are boring, right? Because we are the backbone of the whole internet in the world. If we talk about innovation, Jeff, in the wholesale business, you will not find a lot of changes happening dramatically compared to other industries like AI, etc. But we are the backbone that supports all of these upcoming technologies. What we observed in the last 2 years, at least, we noticed that the 5G adoption and the use cases is becoming more mature. And this is, we observe it by the international capacity being requested. We observe it by the amount of power that the telecom providers are asking for within the DC itself. We noticed that 30% increase in the power. For an industry which is the telecom quite mature, I would say the organic growth of it is not very high. Having that kind of a growth really suggests a high demand of the use cases. And usually when we notice such kind of high growth, we sit with the end customer, we try to understand the adjacent businesses, what they do, etc. And this really has been confirmed that the expectation of 5G use cases adoption is increasing a lot. So definitely 5G, the ultra reliable low latency services as well, which is represented from our side in Wholesale by the edge data centers. As business cases, we have checked, it's not very, I would say, viable or attractive businesses. This is why I believe the DC provider and wholesale business are cooperating with towers and companies that can really build and facilitate the establishment of edge data center to serve the customers eventually. Also, we're seeing the cloud computing is one of the things that has been increasing a lot, especially in the region. Globally, it was there for a very long time, but I believe in the region, we anticipate from 2023 up to 2030 an increase of 15 times the demand of hyperscalers. Many of them has been already hosted here in the region, especially in the GCC countries. When we talk about AI and big data, which is the big hype that we see globally, this from our side in the wholesale business represented by preparing the right facilities for them to be hosted in, making sure that we build something from now. Again, AI, we don't anticipate that it will dominate the whole industry of data center and facilities and international connectivity. According to our study, it's suggested in 2030, we would have somewhere between 20% to 35% of the whole market share being for the AI use. So the real challenge now for us is how we can build something that is sustainable and also agile at the same time to accommodate the upcoming changes, right? And this is something we in Central 3 have done successfully. We have hosted in the Eastern Province of Saudi, one customer with high rack density, I would say, plus 40 kilowatt per rack being hosted there by doing just fine tuning on the specification of the data center. This is really challenging actually to meet it. We are building also new DCs that's really tailored to accommodate for the AI changes. Lots of challenges I believe happening. We need to make sure that we have the right agility to make sure we cover the future, not only now.
Wow, good insight there. A quick question, if you don't mind. The power issues that you're seeing, it sounds like you're just like everybody else, I assume, but how are you coping with the power needs? Do you have plenty available for?
Yeah, I believe power within the facility itself is one issue, and the external power provided from the utility company is another issue as well happening. So let's tackle the first one. Power within the data center itself, we have resolved it by advanced technologies. We have the rear door cooling, which is something we applied. There is the liquid immersion cooling. There is the liquid to cooling. All of these advanced technologies really requires collaboration between the DC provider and also the end manufacturer of the server itself, like NVIDIA and the big organizations that have these facilities, that have these solutions in place. Big scope, I believe with the right collaboration, right partner, we absolutely can overcome the power issue. For the utility, I believe it's a big issue. Thankfully, the government is really adapting to that. Even the private sector utility powers are adapting to that, and they're expanding, I would say, aggressively to meet the upcoming demand from AI.
Good. Thanks for the insight. Frederick, what's new and exciting on your world there?
Yeah, it's quite a tough one to say something exciting after all the good insights that have been provided here. I'd like to continue a little bit on what Abdullah was mentioning on AI, but I think we're going to see a quite substantial traffic volume increases over the next few years. And I listened to I think it was Larry Ellison at Oracle, right, when he was talking about that they're now planning gigawatt data centers. In order to power them, they are partnering up with nuclear power providers of small mini nuclear powers in order to power these massive data centers in future. So I think that we're going to be seeing some capacity demands that a little bit when 3G and 4G, 3G came, and then you saw the graphs of 4G and 5G, and you thought that's never going to happen. And then it turned out that the volumes were even larger. And speaking of the volumes going up, we're also seeing that prices are still eroding, but I think we started to see for the first time that prices have been stabilizing a little bit and even increasing on some of the routes due to the geopolitical situation. And not only that, we're quoting higher prices to the gentleman in the room here. So there is quite a few challenges when all the traffic flows are changing, and we have a number of submarine cables that are currently not in operation. There's a massive billion-dollar projects that are being delayed, which all carriers and hyperscalers have been planning for these capacities to be RFS this year and next year. So there's quite a few challenges there. So
Sure. Well, thank you so much. We're doing okay on time, I believe. We'll see. But I'm going to kind of push through these other questions coming up here. Why do partnerships matter in network connectivity? Which partnerships have been impactful for your company this year? Obaid, maybe we'll start with you, please.
Keep it short and sweet, Jeff. So, as I alluded earlier, and I really like the word or the way Omar had coined it earlier, in his comment that, we need to build up ecosystems. We can't provide end-to-end connectivity going forward on our own individually, right? So hence we have to work together. Given current needs and demands, that old, and if I may use the word, archaic model of building end-to-end solutions won't work, right? So we have to pivot towards moving away from on-net only solutions to bringing off-net into play. And off-net means, you bring in the key partners, strategic partners, be it on long haul, short haul, to be part of that whole ecosystem. And again, you have to see the way innovation is happening. It's happening in spurts in different areas, and it has to basically converge somewhere. For example, we can create an ecosystem that can kind of, in Asia, allow a developer to access newer markets, newer customer base. For that, the connectivity ecosystem stitched up together is very important. Now, in terms of what partnerships are important for us, I think, I alluded earlier as well. If you look at Data MENA from the get-go, we basically went with Equinix as a key partner as an enabler. Not only that, all the hyperscalers that have come in, we have about 200 plus, peering partners over there. That shows that, the whole ecosystem does make sense, and it needs to be replicated in the wider GCC or Middle East area. Similarly, in shape of the UAE Internet Exchange, we are partners with DKIX, so that is very important for us. From a connectivity standpoint, needless to say, I see a few partners here in terms of the Amir cable that we've basically built terrestrially. That is kind of all the partners coming together with their national backhaul and converting it into an international route. So, it's more like, utilizing your existing assets, putting it together to create something different. That's where value creation comes in from. And, we are working on new partnerships as well in terms of regional connectivity. One part I want to basically mention here, perhaps, we're going to discuss it later on as well. The satellite connectivity partnership, that is becoming very important for us as well in the region, not only from a consumer play perspective, but from an enterprise play, augmenting our coverage in terms of connecting. I know that, latency is still a little bit of an issue there, but I think, it will play a pivotal role going forward.
Okay, good. George, what do you think on that subject?
Yes, sure. In fact, partnerships have been very key for Salam to grow its connectivity business. So inside Saudi Arabia, we partnered a lot with STC, Center 3 even, Mobily, Dawiyat, TLS, and others to increase our footprint inside the kingdom and to reach the new business areas and new mega projects. To reach, areas like Spark, King Salman Energy City, to reach Neom City, and others. On the international side, we're also part of the Emir 2 project, and we extend the backhaul from the neighboring countries of Saudi Arabia all the way to Europe. Okay. So partnerships have been key for us on the network side. We have also done partnerships on the data center side, with TLS, with Damak, EdgeNex, and others to have also data center services and provide co-location and for large operators and large enterprises. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Omar.
Absolutely. I mean, partnership, again, wholesale by definition, it's working with everyone around you,
Sure.
including entities which help you build your own solutions. Now, what's interesting, yes, what's exciting about this industry is 95% of the internet traffic goes through our collective ecosystem, through our networks. And the region itself is actually becoming a hub. The idea of like investing more in subsea cables whether with consortiums or with partners, this is absolutely something that we have to continue as an industry. There is almost 1,200 landing stations around the world, and Saudi Arabia have no shortage in terms of landing stations, which we are participating in. Partnerships and data centers and in technology is key. To me, if I look at what partnership really means to cause discontinuity in the business, if I look at Uber, for example, as a simple example, Uber is a collection of software components working together to create a different or to redefine the industry. Wholesale in our region and in Saudi Arabia is changing because of what's happening around us. When you see all hyperscalers coming in, investing billions of dollars, launching their services in the region, demanding, the low latency, demanding agility and execution that you cannot do alone. You have to build systems, and these systems need partner to support you on. And the last section of partnership to me is technology partnerships. Somehow the market is growing. It feels the market is growing faster than how the technology is serving us. The demand of 100 gig circuits followed by 400, then 800, and then leapfrogging to massive circuits to up to 1.6 tera driven by hyperscalers and content means you have to change your existing model and partner very quickly to serve the industry. So absolutely, it's an area we need to really excel in, especially that being a hub in the region this is ultra critical.
Good, thank you. Abdullah, what do you see?
I couldn't agree more with the team. I believe it's no longer a luxury to have partnership in the region. It's a must actually to succeed in the region. If we can divide the partnership when it comes to connectivity to two types, either the international one, and I believe in there you are forced by regulation to partner with someone in the other country, right? Otherwise, you cannot build that end-to-end solution to them, whether it's submarine or even terrestrial corridor. The surprise for me, at least, is that partnerships started happening even within the country itself. We saw in many of the hyperscalers coming in and asking for fast time to market solutions and something to connect their platforms across cities and long hauls, etc. And providers are collaborating together to make sure that solution is in place. We have seen it with Mobily, we have seen it with Salam. We're doing it with many of what we thought at the beginning are competitors. Now we are collaborating together to meet the end customer expectation. And I believe Umar and the rest of the team really mentioned that the agility from supplier point of view is very important for these hyperscalers. So we need to provide ready-in facilities and ready-in solutions, whether it's international or national connectivity. As for the partnership that Center 3 have had recently, we acquired, as everyone knows, CMC, which is operating in Africa. If you see Center 3 throughout STC Group overall history, we were really a major player in the Middle East, in Europe, and in Asia as well by having our submarine cable there. And what we were missing actually is the Africa big segment. And Center 3, by the way, the 3 is 3 continents, Asia, Africa, and Europe, and we were missing one of these 3. So we were Center 2 before, now we became actually Center 3. And instead of investing of all of these new connectivity and building everything from scratch, we decided to partnership, no matter what the shape of partnership, whether it's acquisition, etc., with CMC to make sure that we have a ready-on solution. And today, if you look at CMC, it has more than 100 POPs distributed around the world and majorly in Africa. So imagine the time that has been saved by Center 3 in accessing all of these POPs across the different countries in Africa. Partnership, I believe it is a must. I reiterate, it's not a luxury anymore. Anyone who thinks he can do everything by himself will be lacking behind in the market.
Good insight. Frederick, what are you seeing?
No, I agree, and especially looking at geographical partnerships, where now when the demand and requirement for alternative routes is becoming quite critical, it's very important we all work together to find the best solutions, both for our end customers and for third parties as well. But it's one thing is the geographical partnerships where we don't have a footprint. Another important part of the partnerships where, for instance, that we have been able to invest in plus 20 submarine cables and a lot of times taking front seats, punching a little bit out of our league by having a number of financial investors, not financial investors, but investors from the industry and hyperscalers, etc., behind us, and able to take a little bit more risk and take bigger portions of infrastructure investments than we perhaps shouldn't have done or wouldn't have done if we wouldn't have these partners. So I think that spreading out the investments into many different systems has turned out to be a very, very good strategy, where today you can't really rely on 5, 6, 7 submarine cables. You need to have 10, 15, and you need to have them in all directions, both east and west, and complemented with terrestrial in the region as well. So and I think also it's a little bit that's the beauty of this industry, that we're all here as partners, but we're also competitors, we're also customers, and we're providers for each other. So this symbiosis and ecosystem that we're working in is a quite dynamic industry, and especially this region where perhaps in Europe it's quite easier to have a full coverage of a pan-European network, for instance. In the Middle East, it's a bit more delicate and it's a bit more challenging, and which also makes it quite more interesting as well, I think.
Good,
Yeah.
interesting points. I do have.
If I may just add here, if you don't mind, just a minute. So, I just want to resonate what Frederick was saying, and I'm sorry, apologize, I missed it out earlier because, really just well in terms of what he said about monetizing assets faster,
Right.
getting a better return on investment. In terms of the ecosystem that Zoe has built up, we as two are kind of dipping into it as well through this OEG cable that we are building, collectively. So that's, one of the key partnerships that, I can basically exhibit over here that shows that we can get synergies and cost optimization by, just joining hands together.
Yeah, good idea. Good point. Frederick, real quick on one of your points you made about you've ended up taking more capacity than you initially thought you would. How quickly is that capacity being used in today's hyper environment? I mean, that's got to be a big issue.
Yeah. So I think we all are struggling a little bit on the amount of stock that we're having, and especially we were supposed to have a number of quite large subsea systems up and running by now or towards the end of the year. Blue Raman being one of the biggest one, which is being delayed. We had very large systems like Africa 1, etc., that's also being delayed due to the issues. So I think that I think we were actually ridiculed a few years back by a industry analyst / journalist saying that we were collecting submarine cables for fun, which then turned out that the diversity is something that's been very, very helpful to maintain the quality and the diversity for especially the large hyperscaler we have hosted with us, that not just requiring 2 or 3 completely separate routes, separate cable landing stations, and etc. So, but yes, we have done a few upgrades, and we're waiting for the large systems to go live. And I think that with the capacity demand, with the hyperscalers investments in the region, with the content and cloud services and computers moving closer and closer to the customers, we're going to be requiring a lot of capacity in the next couple of years here.
Sure. Thank you very much. Along with submarine cables and satellite, 5G and cloud are playing a big part in network capacity, service delivery, and IoT enablement. How are you seeing this continuing in the future, in the coming years? Obaid, what do you think?
It's certainly a growth story. 5G, as I said, cloudification as well. Middle East itself has been in the forefront of 5G adoption. UAE was the first one of the first operators or country to launch 5G advanced services. So 5G adoption is there. But it's not only about the adoption, it's about the use cases, first of all. So, I think, I heard the panelists say earlier as well, we are still in a nascent stage of seeing, some killer apps, killer use cases come in, which is going to come in because, there are so many touch points in various sectors, be it oil and gas, be it manufacturing, be it healthcare, be it ports, or transportation. So we're going to see that adoption coming in. But as I said, the outlook is it's indeed a growth story. Right. However, what I see is that we need to proactively start planning for this growth story from a network infrastructure perspective. Again, we've kind of, alluded on the subsea cable side, but there's a whole national backhaul. There's the access part, there's a data center part that has to, support all these things going forward. So this is all going to be important, especially, for the cloudification part of it.
Good.
What I see is that, if I may, 5G and cloud, yes, it's important. But if I bring AI into the mix, that will change the business model. Again, speaking, traditionally, we have been building everything from an optimized, cost-efficient perspective. We were trying to centralize everything, regionalize everything, localize the data and the information as well. Now with 5G use case adoption, whatever it may be, but it seems it's not going to be regional, local. It's going to be more like, global use cases. Similar AI as well. You will have to basically export compute power. That will indeed put a stress on our existing ecosystem. So as Frederick mentioned, in terms of building up that infrastructure from the get-go, that is something that we need to have a risk appetite for. And that's where we need not only a focus, but a capital investment as well going forward. So I'm not saying that we need to kind of create an oversupply of infrastructure, but we need to be prudent and cautious that all these requirements are going to come in later on.
Sure. Good points. George, what do you think?
Yes, of course, all these developments, like you said, the 5G, the satellite, the submarine cables are playing a vital role in network capacity. But what we are seeing more in the coming new years is artificial intelligence, is the setup of data centers with GPUs that is driving terabits of connectivity now. We are seeing this coming, from the OTTs and the hyperscalers coming into the kingdom. And we believe this will be the trend for the coming years. Thank you.
Good. Omar?
I'll just probably add one point here. When we talk about hyperscalers coming into Saudi Arabia or to the region, it's actually to launch their services using public cloud, a mix of public cloud and some private cloud being built. By definition, the public cloud is demanding always new bandwidth, different SLAs as new services come in. So this is actually, like, in terms of ongoing growth, it will for sure continue to grow. We didn't even most of the regions which were announced in the GCC countries are yet to be in service. So we'll see a lot of public clouds coming in service in 2025, 2026, which will increase the demand accordingly at that point. So this is the external factors forcing us to continue to grow. But internally, if I look just at our own local statistics, Saudi Arabia now have the third largest 5G downloads, and this is all organic type traffic, which means that the network have to always adapt to such high expectation, and it will continue to go higher. And there's one more thing which Obaid mentioned, 5G, and it should enable next generation services, whether it's the industrial IR4. And the moment we start reaching new verticals, especially with what's being built in country, whether it's energy, healthcare, new areas, complete new development from scratch, this is going to force us actually to think of now the network aware applications. It's no longer us controlling the applications or what runs on our network. We want to give the ability to our customer or customer's customer to go and build their own services and create the on-demand services all the time, anytime. So there is non-stop growth going forward in the coming years.
Good point. Good point. Abdullah, what do you think?
Yeah, I think if you look at the 5G current use cases, maybe the most promising one is the fixed wireless access, which will really bring more customers towards the high bandwidth capacity requested, right? Rather than digging and making sure that the fiber to home service is being deployed, you can just deploy the FWA and make sure you have more customers. And this is what we have noticed actually. In Saudi specifically, once the 5G adoption started increasing, we saw the average consumption of data per capita within Saudi increases. And consequently, the need for infrastructure has also increased in terms of submarine capacity connectivity requirements. And maybe I believe, Frederick, you are the one who mentioned the price erosion previously. And this is honestly for the first time, by the way, from 2017 until today, the price erosion were somewhere between 10 and 15% on a yearly basis. Just recently, due to the geopolitical issue, of course, also the demand of the use cases of 5G and other applications, we started to see the erosion to stop in certain, I would say, links, especially the one going to Europe. And in certain, I would say, routes, the demand itself or the price itself also increased. But I second what Ubaid mentioned. We should not go aggressively on the over surplus supply of capacity in the region. We should build it very, very carefully. It need to be really studied because it's $1 billion USD investment. So we need to be very careful with our money.
Sure. Good point. Good point. Frederick, what do you think on those matters?
I think when just to add on the cloud that we are seeing now, I think it's kind of starting, and we're going to see that in 2025 and going forward, but more of a high bandwidth enterprise connectivity. Now when everything is moving to the cloud, and also a lot of compute power is going to be required for the different applications that enterprises are using. So we're moving away from the typical 512K or 2 megabit lines into higher bandwidths, and also more managed services. We're looking at more on-demand bandwidth when it's required, etc. So it's going to be quite a few more interesting products and solutions that's going to come out, and what the enterprises is going to be driving a lot of this high bandwidth on-demand connectivity. And then also if we're looking at cloud, it's an interesting initiative in Europe. There it's a company that has received a several $1 billion euro funding to build a European cloud. So sort of an Amazon Web Services, but European built on European land, and then complement that with data centers in each country, because even in EU you can't store all types of data even in another EU country. So sort of creating creating thousands of jobs, but also starting to take control of the data and the data integrity and sovereignty. So if we're talking about partnerships and ecosystem, that's something that we should definitely start exploring, how this region can stimulate innovation and stimulate job creation and investments in the region to perhaps do something similar. I hope some of my customers are not listening to me now.
I understand. Real quick, and this is kind of a question that really goes with this group here, is how does the region's geopolitical landscape affect the delivery of your wholesale services? A lot of it may be terrestrial. You got the Emir, I think it's the Emir 2 connectivity. What do you think, Obed?
Look, it's a very elaborate topic, very relevant. I think Abdullah already started alluding on that, by aptly naming themselves Center 3, because that's one of my key points. If you look at us within Middle East, we have a very strategically located presence. We are sitting on the traditional trade route. We are a midpoint for 3 continents, hence Center 3. This is the first time I'm hearing it, Abdullah. I didn't know what 3 actually meant, but good to know now. So, that strategic importance basically makes us have a corporate responsibility. I'm sorry, I'm going to digress a little bit here, Jeff, but it's a corporate responsibility, but a social and a moral responsibility as well to connect the emerging markets with the developed world. So, there are markets, which are or nations which can't afford connectivity, and then that's the role that we have to play. So, if you look at it from that perspective, Middle East has a very pivotal role to play, be it from business continuity perspective, be it from providing, connectivity to new markets, as I said, or emerging markets, as I said, or providing diversity. How does that equate into us? Again, to the point that I was alluding to earlier, without any geopolitical influence or disruption, we would build up to the point where we need the capacity for. Now we've started building more diverse routes, which is kind of more than the capacity that we need, just because we need diversity and redundancy for our own needs and for our carrier and partner customers as well. So, and again, not to basically delve into specific details, I'm sure, all of you, including the audience, can realize that GCC and Middle East in general is surrounded by certain choke points. Hence, the terrestrial routes have become very important for us, which perhaps, about 3-4 years back, we wouldn't have looked into. So, again, just to, just summarize it, from the geopolitical standpoint, we have to look at building a little bit more than, what we were traditionally building, and we will have to continue doing that.
Okay, good information, good information. George, what do you think?
Yes, basically, regarding the geopolitical landscape, well, we are seeing more demand towards terrestrial connectivity, from Jordan and Iraq to bypass the Red Sea. This is the most now common theme, is to bypass the Red Sea.
Right.
And to go straight, either into Egypt, subsea from Jeddah, or Yambo, or Neom, let's say, or you can go through Jordan or Iraq. This is what we're seeing now these days the most. Thank you.
Okay, good. Omar?
Well, geopolitics is driving us to be innovative in terms of routes, as my colleague discussed. We're connected to 9 borders, and definitely the connectivity within Saudi Arabia is evolving because we have to utilize the geographic location. And as I mentioned before, it's the routes and how we are lighting the routes. Every part of the spectrum now matters. We all need to achieve the lowest price per bit and the lowest kilowatt per bit to achieve the demands or to meet the demand that we're expecting. So absolutely innovating in terms of route, this is absolute must that we are actually doing a lot of work in this domain, and we can always have separate discussion on it.
Sure. Good. Abdullah, what do you think?
Yeah, I believe previously we were counting on the submarine cables to really compensate for the frequent cuts happening in the terrestrial path. I believe now the geopolitical issues really flipped the table. Now we are seeing more reliability on the national and I would say terrestrial connectivity being more reliable compared to the submarine ones. We have seen, by the way, many projects. I believe many of the team here in the panel as well have faced their projects being on hold. They have been stopped due to the issues happening due to the geopolitical conflict. One of them is generated in the Bab el-Mandeb Straits. It's not definitely easy times, but this really imposes a corporate responsibility on these companies, that is us, to make sure that we have the connectivity in place, that we can deliver the services to our end customers. I believe having the terrestrial corridor that George just mentioned earlier, which is going through the GCC countries up to the Red Sea, avoiding Bab el-Mandeb Strait and the issues happening there, then going through divert routes, which is what we are building as well in Center 3 by our new cable AMC, not only avoiding Bab el-Mandeb, but also avoiding the high congested area of Egypt, where all of the cables are landing there as well. Just a note, I believe it's just last week where one of the major cables serving Kuwait have been cut, which is the GCX Falcon cable, which really imposed another importance on the terrestrial connectivity. Immediately, all of the operators jumped to the borders to serve Kuwait through terrestrial. We anticipate, by the way, from now, in 5 years only, from now until 2030, that the demand or the market size, I would say, for the terrestrial fiber to increase from 8 billion USD to 16 or 17 billion USD. So definitely there is a very, very high demand for being innovative and providing alternative route to make sure that the customers are not being impacted. So I agree with Ubaid, he mentioned corporate responsibility. I totally second that. And like I say, it's a national mission now to make sure that the region is being served as well.
Good points. Good point. Frederick, what do you think?
I agree with Abdullah here as a national responsibility or regional responsibility. And I think Saudi Arabia has a very critical, both geographical location and a role to play because it's not just about the regional connectivity. It's a substantial part of the international connectivity going from Asia to Europe and vice versa, and also serving then Africa. So yes, and as you mentioned, the Bab al-Mandab Strait, which we also had on our risk list for quite some time, because it's very, very narrow and very shallow, and it's very complicated now to lay cables there with the crossing cables and with the amount of traffic going there. So it's something that we started even before the issues outside Yemen to see how we can satisfy the need and also the requirements we have now for Indian Ocean to Red Sea route, which is obviously very, very critical and required now. So then previously we were always dimensioned for perhaps 2 cable cuts in each either east or west, and now we're seeing that there's a lot of cable cuts happening, and the time to repair is quite challenging now. So
sure, no, hey, good points, very good points. Emerging technologies are being deployed within wholesale. We all know that. What do you think the advantages and disadvantages of AI, machine learning, and optimizing wholesale network operations? I'm going to start with you, Ubaid, and get your thoughts on that matter.
Yeah, so I'm going to basically remain on the advantages side. I kind of peppered my breakfast with optimism this morning. So, no disadvantages I'm going to list. So, but, needless to say, AI is disruptive. But, I see that this disruption is going to bring in, a lot of efficiency for us, from an wholesale business model, be it cost optimization, routing optimization, be it, optimization on cooling efficiency, as Abdullah was mentioning. There's so many things happening. If you put AI on top of it, it becomes more efficient. Be it dynamic resource allocation, be it predictive maintenance, be it capacity planning, even, the anti-fraud solutions, cybersecurity. So it has so many touch points, which we are kind of doing semi-manually at this point in time, that, intelligence can bring in a lot of efficiencies in there. So, from my perspective, one thing, and I think Umar did mention it quite early on, AI superimposed on a software-defined network is going to be a game changer for us. Right? So I am quite optimistic in terms of the AI and AI applications within our wholesale sectors and how can we utilize it going forward.
Right. Okay, good. George, what do you think?
Yes, AI will be a significant disrupting technology going forward. Not only it is disrupting the data center infrastructure due to its huge power requirements, but it will disrupt also the connectivity, whether the backbone connectivity inside, the same country or internationally. We will need to look now at the terabits of capacity, even dark fiber, not only nationally, but also internationally. So I think we all have to prepare ourselves for this next phase due to the AI spread.
Yeah, good point. Omar, what do you think?
So let me mention one thing at the beginning. We are like the industry is overusing the word AI a lot, to a point where there was a report saying out of the Fortune 500 companies, 290 or 281 of them already mention AI in their financial reports in the last year alone, and this is going to continue. So dealing with AI is an absolute must. Like, it's a matter of our sustainability and almost our social responsibility on how to deal with what's coming. Number two, is it going to be a bubble? Now, the key difference between AI today and the dot-com era, in the dot-com era, we were building products before we talked to the market. And there is a lot of stories around this. But in AI, the models are available, and it's up to our imagination to start building products on the top of that to use it. So a use case for us in wholesale is both internal and external. Internal means we can use it to optimize our operations, to respond faster, to have analytics that tells us when to predict the failure. And it is learning because of its learning ability. You will automate all this data and start having good predictions. So AI is about prediction. Judgment will still be with the experts. So we will evolve, the industry will evolve because of that. So this is internal on how to do our operations, but go to market, it will also help us a lot. And again, it will democratize the network as it grows. To me, very soon there will not be a need to get an order and a review from the customer. Maybe the customer is going to analyze the network capabilities and to place the order automatically, because they see our routes, they see what's available, they see what's not available, and they will point and click and do the order. I think it's going to expedite if you follow what's happening in the different models and how fast it's evolving. We will be at the heart of this transformation. We are actually hosting a lot of this transformation, and we should be the first to use it and to adopt it.
Okay, good point. Good point. Abdullah?
Yeah, I believe the team have been quite optimistic on the upcoming changes of AI. So please allow me to be the devil advocate here and say the negative and disadvantages side, or the scary, let's call it, part of AI. Today in the wholesale business, we're building infrastructure that, for example, in DC lasts from 24 to 30 months. In submarine cable, with the complexity of consortium, sometimes it lasts 4 years even. Is really the AI moving at a pace that will allow us to build and accommodate such kind of development happening in the AI? I don't think so. AI is moving at a very, very high pace. And for us as wholesale businesses and industry to accommodate for all of these and making sure that we are future-proof when we build it, it's really challenging. And I hope that we can build something that is lasting, that can really accommodate the changes happening in AI. But I'm telling you, with the amount of changes we have seen only in 1 year since the real era of AI started, it's tremendous. It's really, really huge. And I hope within a very short period we can cope as wholesale business to that kind of change.
Good points. Frederick, what do you think?
Yeah, for sure on AI, and as my colleagues here touched upon, the whole predictive analytics and for real-time traffic analysis and route optimization, etc. But we also, what I've heard about different kind of trials now with self-optimizing, self-provisioning, and self-healing networks, etc. So I think in the next year could be some quite interesting things happening here. So, the whole automation from order to provisioning or order to cash, completely automated. But when the data to predict behaviors. But when we're also going to see AI or ML start to actually take actions in the networks, that could be quite interesting. But I see a lot of cost optimizations and efficiencies happening, that everything from dynamically allocating resources to how to design and provisioning and operate the network. So at least a lot of OPEX savings. That's I'm very optimistic about.
Sure, good. But we're pushing our time a little bit, so you'll bear with me. I'm going to have one more question, then we're going to do some quick question and answers from the audience. And thank you for bearing with me on the time here. Last question, from a leader's perspective, what are the future trends in the wholesale sector, particularly in the Middle East region? And are these aligned to sustainability goals? And as you all know, you always got to ask about sustainability in this day and age. So, Obaid, I'll let you start.
So again, zooming out, first of all, what's Middle East trends right now? We have become an innovation hub.
Right.
If you look at the demographics of GCC, we have a relatively young population, meaning, there's going to be a lot of, innovation and then startups coming in. There's going to be a lot of in-region demand. If you look at access to capital and the cost of capital is cheap, access is there. Power, as being mentioned earlier, it's relatively cheaper. The result of all these things is that we've seen tech unicorns, emerging regionally. Digital transformation is quite rampant. I just want to give these macro factors to give my view later on.
Sure.
Then, if you look at from a global perspective, GCC or Middle East has pledged to become the AI epicenter globally. Amongst 3 countries or nations within GCC, they have, between them, they have pledged about $330 billion of investment for AI. So, if you look at from a Middle East wholesale outlook, all these things, the indicators that I'm telling, means we have to convert it into connectivity. We have to convert it into, exporting compute power, exporting data, not only here, elsewhere as well. Meaning it's very important for us to basically, play that role. How does sustainability come in there? Again, I don't want to basically repeat myself, but if you see it from a DC build perspective or data center build perspective, green energy sources are already coming in. That's a key thing that is being looked into. Efficient cooling is coming in. Even from a DO perspective, we are responsibly building everything, with the green credentials, making sure that sustainability is the kind of a foundation layer in there. So, but the responsibility lies amongst all of us. And what I see is that, the sustainability initiatives that we are taking in terms of building rightly, efficiently, the benefits are going to cascade across, the whole value chain and the societies.
Good, good. George, what do you think?
Yes, in terms of the future trends in the wholesale sector and the sustainability goals, I see that there will be more partnerships. So more partnerships in the data center space between the operators and the big data center providers. You were talking about GDH, EdgeNex, Dawiyat, Quantum Switch, STC, Mobily, Center 3, whoever is building the large data centers. There'll be more and more collaboration between the operators and the data center operators, because we need to provide redundant connectivity and high-speed connectivity to all the OTTs and hyperscalers, cloud providers that are being hosted there. I'll see more cooperation between the regional internet exchanges. So the internet exchanges of Saudi Arabia being interconnected together and also interconnected to the region, such as UAE Internet Exchange, Manama Internet Exchange, Qatar Internet Exchange, and others. There'll be a lot of regional growth in terms of the traffic. I believe that the hyperscalers are setting up across all the GCC. So after that, they would want to interconnect more and more regionally between them. So there'll be a lot of regional growth. In terms of sustainability, I see that the next step will be to design data centers and POPs with let's say the power efficiency solutions to cater for the large power required by artificial intelligence and other applications. Thank you.
Okay, great. Omar.
So I think we touched a lot of the points already. Sustainability at Mobily, we have a few pillars, whether from being an accountable enterprise to safeguarding the planet because of how we look at power and the waste consumption, the marketplace customers, being a responsible employer and creating a positive community impact. under all of this is how we behave and as we build our network, as we deal with our customers. So absolutely, power consumption is always at the top of our mind. How we can optimize routes, optimize hardware, utilize software to really virtualize as much as we can in terms of hardware. This is absolutely important. I think George mentioned the partnerships. I look at partnerships both with our neighbors so we can build proper networks and not overbuild. And number two, it's partnering with technology vendors so they really optimize with us and follow the requirements we have and the responsibilities we have in our countries.
Good, good. Abdullah, what do you think?
I think the main focus in the upcoming year will be mainly on the cooling technologies. We are seeing that the demand currently for the AI and the cloud computing services, etc., is really boosting the demand for cooling technologies that can really accommodate that. I mentioned before that we had one example in the eastern province of Saudi of reaching 40 kilowatt. However, we are testing, I would say logically, the possibility to do 140 as well. We know that H200 is coming on the way and it will be commercialized soon as well. So lots of challenges really impose the importance of having ready technologies. We started the study for direct-to-chip technology in terms of liquid cooling. We started the immersion cooling technologies as well. So lots of challenges happening there. From sustainability point of view, we in Center 3 have adopted the many practices of sustainability. In our campus here, we are LEED certified as well. 6 megawatt worth of capacity is being generated from the solar energy in our DCs. It's very important to mention that it's really a trade-off, especially for these hyperscalers. They are coming with mandates of sustainability. They are asking for sustainability practices to be adopted. At the same time, they are asking for reliability of the services, right? Which really makes, I would say, the DC provider in a trade-off position. They need to make sure they balance it right. All of our current procurement with the contractor and subcontractor is making sure that we adhere to this requirement, ordering carbon-free equipment, making sure the practices within the DC is being followed from recycled water, etc. So it's really challenging, but I believe we are very well prepared for that.
Sounds great. Thank you. Frederick.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I would like to add to here is that, you know, if you look at the submarine cables, we are actually, you know, contributing to the ecosystem on the seabed with corals, etc. And I think that a lot of countries have realized now that when a submarine cable is end of service, it's better that it lays on the seabed instead of taking it up. You do more harm taking it up than actually leaving it for its now being part of the natural habitat and the seabed. But my a concluding remark would be that we also, if we perhaps leave the data, the power consumption in data centers, etc., we are promoting digitalization and cloud adaptation, and that is helping also the sustainability goals of all countries. Without the digitalization, it would be quite challenging. So yeah, we have a carbon footprint that we perhaps not always that is not always the best, and we're trying to work on that, but we also are promoting digitalization. So
Great, good points. I want to thank every one of you for being on this panel. I really appreciate your time. I know that everybody's got a busy day, but there was some really good insight across the board from everyone in regard to what's happening in the industry. I think, number one, I appreciate, but number two, I know that our listeners, the people that are viewing, really appreciated your time and your insights into this. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. As Tony said, be sure and come to the Telecom Review Summit coming up in December. We look forward to seeing you then. Take care, everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Okay, bye.